What's going on YouTube? Aura Storm here. This is going to be a new video series I'm going to be starting today. This is going to be called Aura's Creative Corner, where I kind of grab a deck that I've been working on, and it's kind of something outside of the box. It's not something you see every day, and that's kind of what I like to do on my channel, but I feel like this is kind of a separate video series. This is going to be Naturia Traptrix. Now this is kind of my own take on the deck. There's obviously a lot of different cards you can play in this deck, but this is basically my list. So the first two cards I'm playing are two copies of Naturia Bamboo Shoot. Bamboo Shoot is a very, very good card, and you can even completely build a deck around this card because it's that good. When this card is tribute summoned by tributing a Naturia monster while it's face up on the field, your opponent cannot activate spell or trap cards. That is really good. That's like Denko, but better. It's not, the only problem with this card is it's not always easy to get it off first turn and get it up for running first turn. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. In fact, like I rarely get this thing off running first turn. But when you do set it at the right time, if your opponent does not have that pendulum scale, they cannot, not only can they can't set pendulums, they can set spells or traps, but they cannot activate them. And I find that having this card with a little bit of back row protection is devastating to a lot of pendulum decks because they can't go into their extra deck without being able to pendulum summon because this thing is it's also a 2K, it's got 2K attack as well, so it's not the easiest thing to get off the field. I'm finding that a lot of the pendulum decks out there now are not running monster forms of removal. You do see cards like Regeki, but a lot of cards but the thing is you don't Archfiend Eccentric is a card, but it's not seeing a lot of play. And that means Bamboo Shoot just gets that much better. And then 3 copies of Naturia Cherries. This is probably the most expensive deck card in the deck profile for dumb reasons. But if any of you guys have been followed Yugioh for a while and you understand that Star Strike Blast is probably a set came out in the 5Ds era that has a bunch of notoriously expensive cards. I mean, Vanities originally was printed in that set. It was a $40 card not too long ago. So, Cherries is a super rare, I believe, in Star Strike Blast. A bit short printed, that's why it's $10. But the basic effect of this card is sent from the field to the graveyard by opponent's card, by battle card effect, or whatever. You can special up to 2 copies of the card from your deck. It's also a level 1 plant tuner monster, which is good. You are going to be synchroing a lot in this deck. So, it's pretty good. You have to play 3. And then 3 copies of Naturia Cliff, or Naturia Heathcliff, Naturia Blunt, whatever you want to call them. So Naturia Cliff's effect is when this card is sent to the field or graveyard, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Naturia monster from your deck in face-up attack position. So this basically allows you, when you synchro up with Cliff or you tribute it off to summon Bamboo Shoot, you can basically just get a free copy, another copy of this from your deck. It's sort of like you're like Shining Angel of the deck. It's pretty good. You can't tribute it off a Sacred Tree because it's a rock type, but that's probably just intentional card design. Then 1 copy of Naturia Butterfly. This kind of just rounds off your tuners. It gives you an insect type tuner you can grab from the deck, which is pretty important. I only play 1. You don't really need more than 1. 2 copies of Naturia Marin. Marin's first effect is when it's normal summon, you can send 1 Naturia monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then once per turn, the other effect is once per turn. It's like a mini Pot of Avarice. You can shuffle 2 Naturia monsters into the deck from your graveyard and then draw cards. So it allows you to cycle back all your floating heat cliffs and your extra cherries you have in the graveyard. It's a pretty good card. And then we're going to the Traptrix engine, 2 copies of Diania. In this build, I do rely a lot more on the Traptrix, so I play more copies of Diania. Typically, I don't play more than 1 Diania to 3, but it's so easy to get Murmillos in the graveyard with Sacred Tree that I don't have a problem really. It doesn't really clog to have 2 copies. And then of course, it wouldn't be a Traptrix deck without 3 copies of Murmillo. Murmillo is is even better in this deck because when you grab her from the deck with Sacred Tree, she pops a spell or trap, and then when she's normal, and she allows you to search for any of your trap hole cards, which are pretty important to this deck, especially Time Space with the format we're going into. This deck is a fairly solid matchup against most pendulum-based decks, but it does not have a very good Cosmo matchup, hence some of the trap hole cards that are in the deck. And then 1 copy of Glow Up Bulb. Glow Up Bulb's are pretty standard in a Naturia list. It allows you to make, if you can get it out, if it's in the grave, you can make Nat Beast, which is pretty good against pendulum decks. Now for the kind of where it goes a little off the wall, which is these 3 insect cards. So I'm going to talk a little about this one first because I feel like Resonance Insect is the most important of this whole combo. So Resonant Insect is a card that's a level 4 insect type monster, meaning you can grab it from the deck with Sacred Tree. The effect is when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to add 1 level 5 or higher insect monster from your deck to your hand. Doom Dozer is definitely the best of the bunch. There's a bunch of, I've looked up all the other ones and none of them are very good. And then when it's banished, you can send one insect monster from your deck to the graveyard. Guess what? You can send Level Eater, which is great. So the combo is you send resident insects to the graveyard, a synchro material or sacred tree, search out a Doom Dozer, then special summon Doom Dozer by banishing resident insects and their insect, and you can send your Level Eater to the graveyard. It's probably one of the bread and butter combos. All three of these cards basically work together. I wouldn't really play, there's a lot of other insect monsters out there, but I feel like these are basically all I would really want to play. It's just a small little engine. For the spells, I don't play a ton of spells. It's just a few. 2 copies of Chicken Game. Chicken Game is actually really, really good in this deck because it's a defensive deck. I feel like Chicken Game is a lot better than Upstart Goblin in decks that are more defensive, like this one, where we don't have a lot of beefy monsters. That's where Chicken Game comes in. It's a really good card. It's been great for me in testing. I probably wouldn't run 3. I feel like 2 is kind of the ideal number, and I've really liked it. And 3 MST. Pendulums are a thing, if you're not main board, if you can't run Twin Twister, you're main decking Triple Space. I think it's kind of like self-explanatory at this point. And then one Regeki, it's pretty much a staple, why not, do not run? And then for the traps, when Bottomless Trap Hole, it's searchable with Marmilla. Pendulums are a thing. Bottomless is a pretty good card. 2 copies Call the Haunted. Call the Haunted is pretty integral to this deck. Like, I would not play it without these 4 cards. Being able to reborn your trees and your glow-up bulbs so you can make your synchro plays is really nice. 2 Fiendish Chains, I feel like I might bump this to 3. Fiendish is a really good card, just not so much against Cosmos. It's not the greatest against Cosmos or Magic Specters, but it's really good in a lot of other matchups. Being able to stop, Joker or whatever from getting its effects can be pretty key in a lot of matchups. And 3 copies of Naturia Sacred Tree. If this card did not exist, I would not be playing this deck. So the first effect of this card, if it's sent to the graveyard by any means, you can add one Naturia card from your deck to your hand. So it allows you to search your Bamboo Shoot. I can't tell you the number of times I will mill this card off of like Nat Beast or Glow Up Bulb, and you still get the Surge, which is absurd. And the other effect is it sort of adds this like trade in and out aspect. So you contribute 1 Earth Insect monster to special summon 1 Earth Plant from your deck. And the opposite, you contribute 1 Earth Plant type monster to special summon 1 level 4 lower Earth Insect. Basically, it adds this trade in. You can dodge back row. Say your opponent tries to set a few back row past turn, and you have like a plant type monster like Dianea sitting on the board, or a Glow Up Bulb sitting on the board. You contribute it off a Sacred Tree, grab a Marmilla from your deck, and pop one of their back row cards in the end phase. This card is really, really good, and I feel like it's so good in this deck. Like it's really it adds like a really good trade in and out aspect to the deck. Then 2 copies of Powerful Rebirth. A lot of you guys, if you've been playing something like Arrow Mages or something like that synchros, you know how good this card is. So it targets 1 level 4 lower monster and adds a level and increases its attack by 100. It's also not binded to the monster, and that's pretty key. So if your opponent MSTs this while it's face down, you get to keep your monster. And that's one of the things I've always, unless I'm playing like an Exceed heavy deck, I typically like to play Powerful Rebirth over Call the Haunted, or just play both. And I really like the card. It also makes synchroing into some of your bigger synchros like Trishula a little easier. Then for the trap holes, 3 time space trap holes. This is kind of when I was looking at Naturia's, one of the things I knew is that their worst matchup by far would probably be Cosmos, simply because the deck just does not have a lot of big monsters. Like the biggest monster we play is Scarlight, and Scarlight's only a 3k beater. And it's just this, like, the deck, you have to kind of overextend just to get over their big ships, and that's the biggest problem. So time space, that's why we're playing 3, and it's actually really good against pendulum based decks as well. Like, I know you might say, oh, am I going to really pendulum summon and like pay like 5,000 if they pendulum for 5? If they're using their entire hand or resources, you don't care how many life points you're paying. You're putting all their monsters back in the deck, and you're setting them back pretty far on resources. Then 1 Void Trap Hole. I'm kind of iffy. I might take this out for Fiendish Chain. It's not a bad card, but it's not really that great, this format, to be honest, with all the floaters and stuff we have. And then now for the synchros, 1 Catastor. I feel like since I can make both Armatis and Catastor, I'm kind of playing both, because Catastor's better in certain situations than Armatis. It gets over monsters that Armatis doesn't. Of course, 1 Armatis is like, I'm running both because Armatis is really good in certain matchups. It can win you games against decks like Yang Zings. Then 1 Armory Arm. This is kind of like I was saying, this deck has a lot of trouble dealing with big beaters. This is where this card comes in. You can piggyback it on your Clearwing Synchro Dragon, make it a lot more difficult for your opponent to get over. And 1 Black Rose, you can actually use the second effect of Black Rose in this deck, which a lot of people don't ever use, but you can actually use it in this deck because you're playing plant type monsters. Most of the time I'm going to be using this to nuke the board, though. One copy of Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Clearwing is really good in certain matchups. I might in the future I might add a Crystal Wing as well because you can make Crystal Wing pretty easily in this deck since you have so many level 1 tuners. One formula. Formulas, it's a really good card. It's easy to make. You just need a level 1. You just need like Glow Up Bulb and Level Eater, which is easy, or like Cherries and Glow Up Bulb. It's really easy to make, so why not? You obviously want to run it. Then one Mistworm. Mistworm is still really good if your opponent has a lot of like extra deck monsters. Like it's obviously Trish is a better card, but Mistworm is still a really good card. If you can go into it, why not? One Barkion. This is for against back row heavy decks. Banish two cards and negate a trap card. Then one Nat Beast. Nat Beast is getting really popular right now because it's sort of like the same thing against Necros. You make a first turn Nat Beast, they have a lot of trouble playing around it because the problem with Necros and a lot of Necros players is they didn't only ran spell forms and removal. They didn't run cards like, exception of stuff to get rid of the Genlock. They didn't really run a lot of cards to get over. And then you made a first turn Nat Beast. It's the same concept with Pendulums. You make a first turn Nat Beast, they have a lot of trouble getting over it. Then one copy of Scarlight, Red Dragon, Archfiend. You can also play Thought Ruler, but I find Scarlight is a bit of a better card. You just clear your opponent's field, burn them for 500, and it also, key thing to remember, this card causes Yang Zings to miss timing because the burn damage happens last, so key little thing to remember about Scarlight. One Scrap Dragon. Scrap Dragon's just like, I've actually made Scrap Dragon a lot of times because I can't kill my opponent because they are at less life than me while I have Chicken Game out, so I'll make Scrap Dragon, pop that, and clear off a few cards before I go for game. One copy of Trishula. Trishula is just typically almost always optimal play, and it's an amazing card. Why would you not run it? One Vulcan. Vulcan's really good because you play so much continuous trap cards. Being able to bounce those and reuse them and then clear off annoying threats is really good. And then two rank 4s. One Kistel. Kistel is really good at getting spot removed for certain cards, and Dianea is like a 1-card Kistel. And then one copy of number 101, Silent Honor Arc, because I think I was playing Exoton before, but I still like 101 as a card. So anyway, guys, as always, I thank you guys for watching my video today. Really appreciate it when you watch my videos. If you guys have any other suggestions you'd like to see in Aura's Creative Corner, let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway, guys, as always, I thank you guys for watching. So Aura Storm, signing out.